We're going to call the Monday, October 27th, Raytown Charter Commission meeting to order. Lisa, you can call a roll.
Jim Azier.
Here.
Ted Bowman.
Here.
Susan Dolan. Janet Emerson. Here. Lisa Emerson. Here. Jason Green.
Here.
Steve Gunther.
Here.
Sandra Hartwell. Here. Michael McDonough. Charlotte Nelson.
Here.
Mark Moore.
Here.
Jim Van Buster. Greg Walters.
All right. This is the point where we open up for public comment. Does anybody have any comment they'd like to address the commission? All right. Seeing none, we'll go into officer report. I did get some information from Sandy that said Mary Jane had just recently fallen this afternoon, hurt her leg, and I think she might have broke her wrist, so she won't be here. And then Michael McDonough emailed me and said that he wasn't feeling well and would not make tonight's meeting dose. And then I have not received anything from Susan. Has anybody heard from her? Okay. All right, seeing none. I did, as far as I don't have any report officially for tonight's meeting, so we'll move to the secretary in minutes.
Nothing. Just need to approve the minutes.
We have a motion to approve minutes. Anybody have any comments towards the October 20th meeting?
A motion to approve.
I have a motion to approve.
And second.
All right, we have a motion by Lisa, a second by Janet. Any other comment?
I think the fire department area, that was a good meeting space. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, it was.
Are we going to do more of those? I know we got the
Well,
next
let's
one
wait
scheduled.
until we get done with the minutes and then break. Anybody over there?
Jim.
Hi, Greg. No. All right, no other comments towards the minutes? We'll take a vote.
Sandra Hartwell.
Yes.
Yeah, that's how I'm doing that. Janet Emerson.
Yes.
Greg Walters.
I think I'll abstain.
Okay. Mark Moore.
Yes.
Lisa Emerson, yes. Jason Green.
Yes.
Steve Gunther.
Yes.
Charlotte Nelson.
Yes.
Jim Azier.
Yes.
Ted Bowman.
Yes. All right. We're not gonna let Jim talk anymore. All right. My coaches. Any update, Mark, on the treasurer's report?
Not that I know of. It's the same, Steve.
All right. So what carries over, it's unchanged. We'll just do it that way. Old business, haven't had any other discussions with any other attorneys. I do know it's out there. I know it's published in Randy's paper, and it's published in the Raytown Brooking Eagle. We've done our due diligence on that. We should have, hopefully we'll have some responses soon. Any other old business to discuss?
Steve,
Yes.
if it's all right for our advertising committee, I would like to set a date of next Monday at 5:45 at the fire department to go over preliminary items. Are we not having a meeting next Monday?
Yes, but this is at 5:45, so we're going to need. Right, that's November 3rd, and it would be at the fire station. And currently, we do have the fire station reserved for November 3rd and 17th if we need it. So, to answer your question, Mark. Any other miscellaneous items to be discussed? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to the new business of the day. Greg, you made you sent us all some wordage on the initiative, the referendum portions of 10.1. 10, do you also have input into this? You had talked last week that you could get together
just the input that we had that day.
Okay.
I do agree with Greg though, that until somebody, I'd like to know why the things that were deleted were in there in the first place.
Well, I have got an answer to one of them. The levying of taxes, there was a big concern that if you let a voter put in an initiative or a referendum, hey, it's working, all right, that, if it's not held in check, they could actually vote to eliminate taxes. That was a concern. I mean, so is there something that needs to be said to, any imposed future taxes or levying of taxes or something like that? So, I mean, I just know in the tax situation, it's a really hard thing to, give all that power back to the voters. Now, in talking with, one other person, in regards to the zoning and the land use issues, he was wondering why in the description that the voters would not have a say on zoning issues or land use issues, which could possibly go back to the thing that we dealt with last April with Walmart. I mean, the citizens don't have a chance to voice their opinion on referendum on a land use issue, then, because that is one of the things listed that couldn't be done. So.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, right.
I gave it a lot of thought.
I gave it a lot of thought before I started typing all this in here. Or actually, I did more removing than adding. But the thing is, I would take issue with the person, whoever that person is, that's concerned that taxpayers may want to actually lower their taxes. That's their right. And I don't think that it's wrong or that it's a bad thing that if they try to do that. And I would almost guess that this probably comes from a lobbying group with three initials starting with an M and then you know.
No, it didn't.
Okay. But anyway, the thing is, there's nothing wrong with that from my point of view. The taxpayers are the ones that have the final say on these things. I also took some time to look at the different charters that have been written by other communities. And I noticed that the two larger cities, Independence and Kansas City, based theirs upon who voted in the last election, rather than just all of the voters that are registered.
But that's probably due to population size.
That could be, but to me, I was also looking at the only cities that I can think of where there have been recall attempts and initiatives and referendums, and both of them are in Kansas City and Independence, and Basehor, Kansas, there was a recall out there. But all these other ones, I think that it's been written using the template that we already have in place. It's almost written to make initiative, that you can do an initiative petition, but for the life of me, I can't think of anything that I'd want to go out and gather 1,700 signatures for, going by what was already in there. And the same thing with the referendum. And we've got the amount set, the percentage of signatures needed, or the number of signatures needed, so high for recall that it would take more people to sign a petition to recall someone that elected them and all the votes of their opponent. And I think that we've gone too far in that. I think that part of the problem is that we're really in the dark on why it was written that way and what the state law says we can do, how much latitude we have. And that's why I would ask that we carry this over until we do have an attorney on board who can answer these questions for us.
Well, we do have the percentages already in there, and those were voted and approved.
I understand that, but we can also revisit.
Right, we can.
And at that time, hopefully we will have an attorney, because we're just, what I've written here, there's no doubt it's what I would like. Whether or not it's legal, I couldn't tell you. Whether or not what was written before us in the first place was legal, except that other people have done it too. So I guess what I would like to do would be carry this entire Article 10 over until we do our review and to settle it at that time.
Okay, that's one thought. I mean, I don't mind, us getting through it with numbers in it and then letting it be reviewed by the attorney to cross-reference numbers or whatever and give us their opinion on it. I do know, that, West Plains did their initiative referendum and recall almost completely different. And was one that was just recently done. And then I have talked with Christine Bushyhead from Lee Summit when they did their addendum in '07. The initiative referendum numbers is something they dramatically looked at because they did have a recall.
They did?
Yeah.
Did they reach enough, did they reach the threshold they had set?
Yes, they did make a recall number, but then after the amendment was done, then it was, I think, reduced based on.
The independence recall effort was abandoned. It did the damage to the ones who were passing the petition who wanted it done, apparently because the person they were trying to recall was then defeated at the next election. So, I just think that if we're going to have these items in here, we ought to make them something that can be used. Sometimes, there have been instances where governments go rogue, or they get a little bit out of hand, and they go opposite of what the public wants.
Okay, well, again, we discussed this last week too. We have 5 different wards. That would mean getting signatures for about 350 in each ward if there was going to be some type of.
Well, it's not just that simple. 5 people would have to sign up to form a committee to do that recall. They would have to get all that paperwork done. There's a lot of going through. Now remember, this is the same group of people discussing right here, where we discussed about how hard it is to get people to even file for office. And yet we're going to have no problem getting people to sign recall petitions. I don't especially buy that. If they're the chance.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm inclined to agree with Greg on some of his points, especially considering, I think we do need to revisit the recall threshold. I did agree to it last meeting, but thinking about it more and looking at some of the things other communities are doing, I do think that was a little bit high on the percentage side. Being said, we need to be very cautious, obviously, not to have it too low. But also with the section of what Mr. Walters added with the initiative portion, I think, and I think I mentioned this last meeting in terms of, some of us up here, we carry away and start thinking we have JDs, and we don't, and I would feel more confident, that when we do revisit it, like mentioned and suggested, that we do have an attorney present just so that, we can see what the legal confines of initiative are, what it can and cannot apply to under Missouri state statutes and get that legal opinion so that we're frankly not wasting time. We could sit here and debate and discuss what we'd like to see in it and then realize that half of what we debated is kind of irrelevant because we have legal opinion that states otherwise.
And that's what I was getting to with the one from West Plains. They actually said that they put in a line that it was all subject to state rulings and everything else. So they just added that sentence into theirs, which I don't know where that was, but I'll find it.
Sure.
All right.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah, go ahead, Jim.
what I do believe is that we should keep in perspective, it's a lot easier to get people to sign a petition than it is to go to the polls. And it's easy to get people to put signs in the yard when they don't even vote. And when we look at the ratio, the people who are registered voters, the people who vote in presidential elections, the people who vote during primaries, and then the people who vote in municipal elections, we see them go down decisively. And I would say that if we're going to keep the percentage low, then the only people who should be allowed to decide are those people who vote in municipal elections. Because that changes the whole perspective. A fewer number is easier to get if those are the actual people who participate. And a lot of people think that because they vote in a presidential election, that they're smart to sign a petition, even though they have no intention of going back to the polls during city elections. So I think all that comes into play when we're looking at how you're going to establish your initiative reference and recall.
Steve,
Yes, Sam?
Friday night, my husband and I went to, chili dinner, and, a lot of the people were from Raytown and around surrounding areas. And, so I asked people that were sitting at the table with me, and some other people that I knew that were sitting in other places, and most of them said, especially for the recall, that's more than even vote. You know, so I voted for the 30%, but I think maybe we might have made a mistake on that.
You mean in raising the threshold too high?
Too high,
Too
yes.
high.
I'm inclined to agree with Sandy.
You know, everybody, some of the people were from Lay Summit, and they were saying what their threshold is, and then there were some people from Independence there as well, and I'm thinking, well, 30% is pretty high. but-
Yeah, and Lee Summit's is the one that I saw that was different, where they do 30% of the votes cast for that office in the election for which that office was elected. So they go back to that individual person's election, look at how many votes
Well,
were
I
cast.
think that's fair, because a lot of people are registered, but they don't always vote,
Okay.
especially in city elections. I think it should be on the number of people that voted.
Yeah, now Lee Summit's got way over twice our population, so trying to gather, if you went, in our case, if we had 1,700 voters vote in that election, 30% of that would just be a little over 630, so, or not even that much, a little over 15, but anyway, so what we gotta look at is that too few? Now, like I said, in Lee Summit with twice the population, if they got 5,000 voters out instead of 17 like we did, 30% of that would be 1,500 signatures. And so, and the range that we saw for recall was anywhere from Blue Springs at 12% up to the 30% that we've seen in most municipalities. So, I mean, I'm opening it up to whatever you guys want to do here. I mean, if we want to relook at the issue on percentages now or just have the attorney address it, I'm okay either way.
Oh, okay, the floor, sorry. I think the attorney should look at some things, but I think the percentage is up to us. The attorney can give us, maybe what they've seen before, but, that's a decision I feel comfortable this board making without the attorney's presence. Being said, again, I prefer the number, like I stated last meeting, would be based off registered voters because it's a consistent number. You could have a bad turnout due to like a storm or something like that, where literally it could drastically change things in the favor or against a particular individual. So again, I want to see a consistent number, and I think basing it off registered voters is the consistent thing to do. The state of Missouri does the same thing. For the state representative seats, state senate seats, things like that, and state initiatives. So, again, I would suggest that we stay in line with basing off registered voters. I just want to look at the percentage on the recall, because I do feel like it was too high. I think according to the numbers, and Lisa can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think per ward, it was something like 1,100 signatures, I think, according to what we've established. It's like 1,100 signatures to initiate a recall. And I think she's pulling that up right now. Is that somewhat correct?
There's 16,867 actual registered voters at 30%. That would be
Roughly 4,000.
right around 5,000.
Well, yeah, but I'm talking about for recall. The recall initiative is at 30%. Initiative is 10,
Yeah,
correct?
30% of 16,000, 17,000 is right about 5,000.
Well, yeah, but I'm talking ward for ward.
30,000 per ward.
Yeah, so like, a little over 1,000, I think is what I wrote down. And, I'd be more comfortable if that number was lower, a couple hundred votes per warrant.
Well, if you did 20%, you're looking at 3,300. Yeah, around 3,300.
Yeah, well, I'm also trying to break it down per ward, because, you know, obviously you have citywide and also ward.
At 20% is,
25% of the 800 and something, correct?
well, it's 4,250 divided by 10, so it'd be
Yeah.
425. Or divided by 5,
So
so
800, something, yeah. 850, roughly 850 per ward, and again, I'm giving it all from perspective here.
And 20% is gonna be 3,400, yeah,
Six, yeah.
680.
Okay. Well, I mean, and again, just a little background, I know in my particular election, just my ward, April 2013, literally 550 people voted. That's all it was. And that was including me and the two opponents I was facing. It's like 550. So it's very low voter turnout in those April elections. Or at least not I'm on the non-mayor cycle, so it's even lower, I think, than it would be if it was on a different one. So, yeah.
All right, go ahead, Mark.
I was waiting for time.
I was going to ask, what the numbers would show up, 15%.
Yeah, I think we did 15 or percent. She's got it on her phone. 15%. 15% would be, 16, 7, 8. Or I guess, hold on, we'll add that one to our list since we don't have it. I mean, I'd be inclined not to go below 20%. I mean, then you're getting close to matching the number of votes that were cast in the last election. And so per ward,
2,530.
divided by 5. Yes. So about 600.
Yes, but those votes, those were divided. Jason, you got 550 votes, or there were a total of 550?
Yeah, just April 13, it was 550 total votes cast. in
So
Ward
that's a
2.
split, let's just say it's a split, let's say it's a 50-50 race. 250 wants Yang, 250 wants Yang.
Yeah,
To get 600, I mean, you're way out, I mean, you're still way on top of everything. I just gotta come down to,
500 is 15%.
because 250 of those voters are gonna say no, if they voted for the man or that person that wants to be recalled, that another person wants recalled. So why not?
you know, and the thing I think about too is that, again, you know, you base it off registered voters. Because again, you know, like for instance, you know, Alderman Azier, he's obviously the other alderman from my ward, and there's higher turnout in his race because he's on the citywide, the mayor race, if you will. So there's always a little more turnout on those than there is for the off-cycle years. You know, kind of like midterms, presidents, if you will. I think a little bit, not to that degree, but to some. So I'm curious what you guys think about the threshold numbers.
I mean, the way we're describing it now is almost a decision that someone will not be recalled, because if the vote was, if the ticket was split 50-50, and I'm just using this to make it easy, that means you got 250 votes, the other person got 250 votes. You want to recall someone and you want 20%, the number's at 605 something,
Yeah, it's close to 620.
you're guaranteed not to get the 250 that voted that person in.
Well, no, I mean, you can't say that because they change their mind if they see how it is.
They do, but I'm just, you know, I'm not splitting hairs here, but if you say, if we've got a threshold of 600 voters, and there's only 550 total, split the vote, it's 250, so start at 250, is what I'm saying.
That's way too low for recall.
There's something,
Or the split of the vote.
But,
I want to add something to that. There's a difference in asking, say, for a petition to, ask people to sign a petition to form a charter commission. That doesn't make anybody angry, or in most cases. It doesn't hurt anybody's feelings. It doesn't put your name on the line as saying, I'm going to sign this petition because I want this guy who I know out of office. That's a big jump. And it's not going to be as easy to get those signatures as you think it will. I passed petitions that are very much in that. I did a petition for an audit of the Baytown Police Department many years ago. And I worked on it with people, and we did get the petition signed. And I can remember very clearly people coming down the street when I was 4 houses away saying, wait a minute, I changed my mind, I want to take my name off. And they had me hand the petition back to them so they could scratch their name off. Because they just had second thoughts about it, because it's a tougher decision. And particularly in a small community like Graytown, where if you lived here any given amount of time, you begin to know everybody, and they begin to know you. And it's just a line that a lot of people will not cross. So I think that you have to keep that in mind also. If somebody is out there judging from, I mean, I don't know how much effort went into gathering petitions just to form this charter commission. And it took a lot of effort. There were a lot of people who went out and gathered petitions, and it was not an easy task. And there were people who said, no, I don't want it, and wouldn't sign it. But by and large, most of them did, said, what the heck, it's just making a decision so that we can vote on it. No harm there. But what we're talking about here is you're talking to somebody to put their name on a public document that the other person's got the right to look at and see who they're not going to invite over for coffee anymore.
Okay, so what percentages are you interested in?
I'm more interested in the 15%. I think that it's a high threshold that takes us above how many people actually voted in the elections. I think it's something, given the other groups you have to go through, such as the forming of the committee, a formal committee, and so forth. How many people have run campaigns where they had more than 3 people on their election committee that were active?
Well, at 15%, Greg, you're only looking at 2,530 total signatures citywide, and about 506 per ward. So,
and you wanted 20?
I could agree with 20.
Why don't we split the difference, say 17, see what that does?
Should I see 17 and a half is? Just practice your math here.
All right. While she's doing that, though, on the other 2 measures, where we said 10%, I know Lee Summit 7, Blue Springs is 8. If we used 8, that would require still 1,360 signatures to even bring something up. I would be okay on the other 2 measures. Those use it as 8.
I think that's fair, and it's the same argument that I was just giving. It's not a hard thing to bring up a non-personal issue and get people to sign a petition as it is when you've got people's names on the line.
All right, Jim, go ahead. Sorry.
I think one thing to keep in mind is that when you have a recall petition, it doesn't remove the person from office.
Right.
It calls for a recall election. And the people will be going back to the polls to vote for that person again or his opponent, whoever chooses to run against him. They're not automatically just kicked out of office. So,
Well, when you
when you have a $3,000 election,
yeah.
you want to make sure that you're spending your money.
And that's what we're trying to avoid, is that the person gets recalled, then doesn't, according to what we already written, doesn't the board have to appoint a new person from that ward?
I don't think
It's not a-
I don't think that they're out of office is a recall election. They're not off. I guess it depends on how you write it. Depends on how you write it.
I know in Kansas City, I really don't know, ours only has that one section, subsection C.
That's a recall.
I really don't know how it works. I know Kansas City, they have the recall, and then they have the election.
No, in our, well, we've already written, it does say if a person is recalled, then we have a process for appointing a new person there. It is in our.
See, that's what doesn't make sense. What you're saying is it takes fewer people to get them out of office than did put them there. And so the minority wins.
No, you still have the election. All we're doing is voting on the number of signatures here. It still has to go before the people to vote on it, so,
So they're still in office until they vote on it.
right, they're still in office, and they still have to get a majority vote either way of the people, so. All right, hey Susan. Hi. Okay, 17.5 gives us roughly 2,952 signatures total, and 590 per ward approximately? I mean, everybody's heard a lot of discussion here. Does anybody have any other opinions?
I just have a question.
Okay, well, first,
It's quite all right, I didn't realize it was live here either. Go ahead, Sandy, I'll follow you.
Where did the 30% come from in the first place?
that seemed to be the majority. MML does not have recall in it, okay, so they don't have a percentage that they suggest. Other ones I looked at, I told you what Lee's Summit was based on that person's recall or
I know
election.
where the 30% actually came.
And then other communities like Raymore Bell do have 30%. And then, I haven't checked, West Plains, but yeah, the ones I've got, 30% seem to be the majority.
Okay.
But, I mean, I'm willing to go to 17–18%. And 8% on the other two, if somebody wants to make a motion that way.
I would like to make comments.
Okay, go ahead, sorry, excuse me.
Okay, well, walking in as I am, in the middle of this discussion, I just ask that you all bear in mind that the numbers are one thing. Another thing that bears a great deal of consideration is the fact that initiation, referendum, and recall are expensive propositions. And I think that in light of that their numbers should also be kept attainable, because the voters are going to know that they already have the money not required to get there. If we keep the numbers inobtainable in pursuing their wishes, they're not going to be happy with us or our body of work.
And that's why we're trying to get to a number that we can all agree on.
I think this is a real important point that we're on. I mean, again, just to keep all the expenses in mind.
Okay.
Please and thank you.
Thank you, Susan. All right, so does somebody want to make a motion of this?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion at 17.5%.
Second.
And what about the other two? Did you, the 10% on initiative and referendum?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Are we making one motion for all of this?
Yeah,
Let's
that's
try
what I
to.
think.
yeah,
A, B, and C?
Yeah.
yeah, A, B, and C.
For sure.
The other two were 10%.
So what do you want to move to?
For 1, 2.
Yeah, 17.5.
So recall 17.5.
Right.
And those are still 10?
No, we're good. No, we're lowering them.
Okay, we have about 3.
Well, we've been discussing it. It's on the debate whether it's 7 or 8, I think.
We could just vote on this one.
Yeah, let's vote on this one.
Let's do that.
Let's do that, just because then you will also.
Okay, all right,
3, 8.
all right, go ahead.
Motion is second.
10, what was that percentage?
17.5%.
Oh, I know that.
17.5%.
Changing the other two on the
No,
radar.
no, it's on the recall, so you should, that'd be wise.
Hello.
So that's big enough.
The way it works here.
We are discussing the section 10.3 petitions A3 recall.
Correct.
Reducing that to 17.5%,
From
correct?
30%.
From 30%. Okay, just checking.
Oops.
Okay, so we have a motion by Mark and a second by Jason. Any other comment?
Just to clarify, 17.5%, that would be 2,952 citywide, and per ward that would be roughly 590, assuming my figures are correct.
Okay, all right. Is everybody clear on those? Yes, sir.
And that was based on the previous
No, the registered voters, the total
registered
number.
voters of 16,000?
Correct.
Yeah, 16,000 something.
The voting voters were under 2,000, so.
Okay, well, one thing I was gonna say is that I know in 1999 when I ran, I had 917 votes. And there was 2 of us running. The other one had 774, I think. So, I mean, it's not always the low numbers that you see, and it depends on whether it's the issue or what's going on. So it's not always those low numbers as we've had before.
But I think as Jim clarified, that's just to get something possibly put on the election or on the ballot. And so the voters still have a chance to do it.
Right.
The thing is, we don't want to waste the taxpayers' dollars either on the election. All right. Any other discussion? Seeing none, Lisa, can you call, please?
Sandra Hartwell,
Yes.
Jim Asia,
No.
Janet Emerson,
Yes.
Steve Gunther,
No.
Susan Dolan,
Yes.
Greg Walters,
Yes.
Ted Bowman,
Yes.
Lisa Emerson, yes. Mark Moore,
Yes.
Charlotte Nelson,
No.
Jason Green.
Yes.
Motion carries 8-3. Discussion then on item A1, initiative on that same section. Mark?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to suggest maybe 8%, see what that number is.
Do we have a second on 8%? Oh, okay. We're doing, hold on, we're figuring the exact numbers.
8% of the registered voters would be 1,350. And per ward, do you want that?
Yeah.
Okay. 1,350. Again, assuming my figures are correct.
I have a quick question, just to clarify something, Steve. You said a lot of the other cities haven't said it, you've seen it at 8% before.
Yeah, Lee Summit's 8, Lee Summit's 7, Blue Springs is 8.
Okay.
But they do have larger populations.
Yeah, of course, but it's based on the registered voters, correct? Okay.
I'll second.
All right, thank you, Greg.
Motion.
Well, who motion go first? Okay.
Can you restate, please?
Suggested. It's-
Mark, is this for 10.3A1 and 2, or just 1?
Just one.
Just 1. From 30% to 8, or sorry, 10% to 8%.
10% to 8%,
Thank you.
which would be 1,350, you said?
Yes.
Is this for both referendum and initiative?
Just initiative right now.
Just initiative.
All right, any other discussions? All right. So your motion was to change initiative to 8%.
Yes, it is.
And Greg seconded?
Greg second.
Thank you. We'll take a vote.
Jason Green,
Pass.
Steve Gunther,
Yes.
Ted Bowman,
No.
Lisa Emerson, yes. Mary Jane Van Buskirk. Or, sorry, Greg Walters,
Yes.
Jim Asia,
No.
Susan Dolan,
Yes.
Charlotte Nelson,
No.
Mark Moore,
Yes.
Janet Emerson,
Yes.
Sandra Hartwell,
Yes.
Jason Green.
Yes.
Motion carries 8-3. Okay, any others out there? Mark?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to change the referendum from 10% to 8% also, please. That would put the number at 1,350.
Mm-hmm. Second. All right, any other discussion? Seeing none, we'll take a vote.
Lisa Emerson, yes. Jason Green.
Yes.
Mark Moore.
Yes.
Steve Gunther.
Yes.
Janet Emerson.
Yes.
Sandra Hartwell.
Yes.
Charlotte Nelson.
No.
Greg Walters.
Yes.
Susan Dolan.
Yes.
Ted Bowman.
No.
Jim Major.
No.
Motion does carry 8-3, so we have revised those numbers on the section 10.3 of petitions. Initiative 8%, referendum 8%, and recall at 17.5. All right, let's continue on then with section 10.4. I have not gotten a response back from Teresa. I emailed her trying to get the time frame to put in to remove the word prompt place in the letter or the certificate to the petition. That was read in section 10.4A. And again, like I said, I have not gotten a response whether it's going to take her 5 days, 10 days, what the turnaround time is. So I think we'll have to carry that one on until we get a response. All right. Unless somebody wants to bring something up or has some additional information that they might want to add on 10.4. If not, we'll continue with where we left off last week at section 10.6, action on initiative, referendum, and recall. Does anybody want to take the floor and start to read?
Sure.
Yes, Greg.
This is, I really feel that we would be better off if we just carried it over to the point we're at now until we do have a legal advisor, because if it gets into language that, as Jason pointed out, we really don't have the JDs to do it here. We could just move on and probably cover a lot more territory and come back when we have an attorney who can advise us on the whys and wherefores on these particular items, particularly A, B, and C.
Okay, is that also, I mean, is it also carrying over 10.7, the results of elections? I mean, that seems to be relative.
They seem to go hand in hand. If you want to just go on to Article 11, financial procedures. Because even the question that we had on the earlier session where you were waiting on the city clerk.
Yeah, I think we can do 10.7. I mean, it's just stating how the results of the elections are going to be certified. I mean, that would.
Okay.
It doesn't go into the nuts and bolts of anything.
All right.
At least I don't feel that way.
All right, so with that being the case, I'll go ahead and start reading section 10.7. Actually, we have to have a vote to carry on 10.6 is what you want to do.
Carry over until we have our legal advisor.
Do we have is that a motion then?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Jason. Any other discussion? Anybody want to weigh in on this? All right, seeing none, we'll have a vote.
And clear,
Vacation.
Here, we'll do one of these. You can just speak. Maybe we can pick it up.
clarification on the vote, please. We are carrying over,
Section 10.6, action on initiatives, referendum, and recall, so it can be, right.
okay. Okay, thank you.
Jim Major.
Yes.
Susan Dolan.
Pass.
Charlotte Nelson.
Yes.
Jason Green.
Yes.
Janet Emerson.
Yes.
Greg Walters.
Yes.
Steve Gunther.
Yes.
Lisa Emerson abstain. Sandra Hartwell.
Yes.
Mark Moore.
Yes.
Ted Bowman.
Yes.
Susan Dolan.
Yes.
I was first. No, I didn't pass. That's
0 to 1. Okay. Now we'll move on to 10.7, results of election. Item A, initiative. If a majority of the qualified electors voting on a proposed initiative ordinance vote in its favor, it shall be considered adopted upon certification of the election results and shall be treated in all respect in the same manner as ordinances of the same kind adopted by the Board of Aldermen. If conflicting ordinances are approved at the same election, the one receiving the greatest number of affirmative votes shall prevail to the extent of such conflict. B, referendum. If a majority of the qualified elector voting on a referred ordinance and vote to repeal it, it shall be considered repealed upon certification of the election results. C, recall. The majority of the qualified electors voting at a recall election shall vote in favor of the proposition to remove an official. A vacancy shall exist in the office, and such vacancy shall be filled as approved by this charter. If a majority of qualified electors voting at a recall election shall vote against the proposition to remove an official, the official shall remain in office. An official who has been removed from office by recall shall be eligible to be appointed to serve as a city official in any capacity at any time during the remainder of the term for which the official was elected. Yes?
Do you want to keep electors? Have we just used voters in the past? Qualified voters voting on whatever?
That's fine with me. It's an easy substitute.
Just to clarify, I'm pretty sure I know the answer to this, but I do recall we've already established an avenue for performing another election. Okay, all right, so can we have that maybe in whatever the job title was?
Right.
Each individual office.
There's a way of...
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Any discussion?
I have a question.
Yes.
On the, where it says about the certification of the election results, who does that?
Jackson County.
Right, they would send us the thing, but as the Board of Aldermen, we,
Yeah. I mean, the Board of Aldermen wouldn't have to say it.
well, that's true, but we accept the election results.
Right.
That's more ceremonial in nature, though. The Jackson County Election Board, the state statutes have the final say on all that, so. I mean, just like how the budget for the Charter Commission, there was a ceremonial vote on, if the city should allocate $10,000. Every single alderman could have voted no on that. The money's still going to come to the Charter Commission because it's a state statute.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's a ceremonial nature,
All right. Any other discussion?
Motion to approve.
All right, Jason, motions.
Second.
Doing seconds. Any further discussion? Seeing none. The only thing that was changed was electors is now qualified voters. Right. All right. Lisa call up.
Greg Walters,
Yes.
Sandra Hartwell,
Yes.
Charlotte Nelson,
Yes.
Steve Gunther,
Yes.
Ted Bowman,
Yes.
Jason Green,
Yes.
Jim Asian,
Yes.
Susan Dolan,
Yes.
Mark Moore,
Yes.
Janet Anderson,
Yes.
Lisa Emerson, yes.
Okay, motion carries 11-0. All right, we'll now move on to Article 11, just financial procedures. Hopefully everybody's got a copy of this in front of them. Okay. Anybody want to read? Still haven't got quite a list. All right, go ahead, Jason, please.
Quickly, I just want to ask, how far down would you like to read this entire section? That's the entire
Or the first
part.
three, let's do the first three anyway.
Okay. Article 11, Financial Procedures, Section 11.1, Fiscal Year. The Board of Aldermen shall determine the fiscal year of the city. Section 11.2, submission of budget message. Before the beginning of fiscal year, the city administrator shall submit to the mayor and Board of Aldermen a budget for the ensuing fiscal year and an accompanying message. Section 11.3, budget. The budget shall provide a complete financial plan of all city funds and activities for the ensuing fiscal year, and except as required by law or this charter, shall be in such form as the city administrator deems desirable or the Board of Aldermen may require. In no event shall the total proposed expenditures exceed the estimated revenues to be received, plus any encumbered cash reserves estimated to be on hand at the beginning of the budget year.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Is there any reason that all, in front of all cities should be capitalized?
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry.
Okay.
Should I keep reading or? do you want-
No, let's go ahead and,
I make a motion to approve.
second.
Okay, so go to those two.
Any discussion? Pretty plain and simple. All right, we'll take a vote.
Steve Gunther,
Yes.
Janet Emerson,
Yes.
Charlotte Wilson,
Yes.
Mark Moore,
Yes.
Jim Asia,
Yes.
Greg Walters,
Yes.
Ted Bowman,
Yes.
Jason Reed,
Yes.
Sandra Hartwell,
Yes.
Susan Dolan,
Yes.
Lisa Anderson, yes.
Motion again carries 11-0. Thank you. All right, we'll go to section 11.4. We'll do all of section 11.4 capital program, please.
Okay, just after the section. All right. Capital program, section 11.4, submission to Board of Aldermen. City administrator shall prepare and submit to the mayor and Board of Aldermen a 5-year capital program prior to the final date for submission on the budget. The Board of Aldermen, by resolution, shall adopt the capital program with or without amendment on or before the last day of the month of the current fiscal year. B, contents. The capital program shall include a clear general summary of its contents. 2, a list of capital improvements that are proposed to be undertaken during the 5 fiscal years next ensuing, with appropriate supporting information as to the necessity for such improvements. 3, cost estimates, method of financing and recommended time schedules for each such improvement. And 4, the estimated annual cost of operating and maintaining the facilities to be constructed or acquired. The above information may be revised and extended each year with regard to capital improvements still pending or in the process of construction or acquisition.
Okay, just got 2 quick things. In A, where you said submission on the budget, and I think it says submission of the budget. Is there, did you want to make a change to that? Or?
Yeah, whatever, it's fine. I may have.
I said I may have spoken wrong.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a
And then on-
submission to the budget.
Is that what you suggested?
Submission of the budget.
Of the budget, yeah.
And then on item 2 under D, you left out the word all before capital.
On item B, number 2,
Yeah.
a list of all capital improvements.
Okay.
Okay.
That's the only thing I had. I know. Yes, Ted?
2 and 3 discuss capital improvements. 4 discusses capital programs in general. Is there a reason why we only list capital improvements as opposed to all of the capital programs? All being acquisitions and construction of new assets.
Maybe part of the 5-year thing. Capital improvements be part of the 5-year. Yeah, coming.
Well, why are we only listing capital improvements instead of all capital projects? Like new purchases, new acquisitions, the creation of new
Well, because
infrastructure?
the budget is different from the capital improvements, isn't it?
It is, and that's why I'm asking. We're talking about the capital program here.
Right. Well, in
before, it's just talking about they're wanting an estimated cost for operating and maintaining facilities to be constructed or acquired. That would be as part of, right, but it would be part of the capital program, something that, that we might anticipate trying to do in the future. It wouldn't be part of the actual fiscal year budget right then. It's my thought.
Why don't we just replace the word improvements with programs or projects?
On 2,
2 and 3.
Yeah,
I don't mean programs, I mean projects.
because 3 has of each such improvement. So maybe of each such project.
okay, so on item 2, you want to say capital projects?
Yes, capital improvement does not include acquisitions.
And then on
Just change the word improvements to project.
3, it would be projects also.
Each such project.
Any other discussion on that? Is everybody okay with that?
Here, you also got the last sentence, is the above information may be revised extended regarding each capital, so the last sentence you want project as well.
It'd be projects for.
Yeah, projects. So there's 3 changes.
You've got capital, 5-year capital programs in A. Are we changing that as well?
Well, programs kind of encompasses.
Yeah, but programs and improvements are 2 different things.
Encompasses all.
All right, any other slight rewording? Susan, did you have something?
No, sir.
Okay. Yeah, if you would reread B, please.
B, contents. The capital program shall include 1, a clear general summary of its contents. 2, a list of all capital projects that are proposed to be undertaken during the 5 fiscal years next ensuing, with appropriate supporting information as to the necessity for such improvements. Are we changing that also to
I don't think so on that.
10?
No, I don't think that's necessary.
Okay. 3, cost estimates, method of financing and recommended time schedules for each such project. And 4, the estimated annual cost of operating and maintaining the facilities to be constructed or acquired. The above information may be revised and extended each year with regard to capital projects still pending or in process of construction or acquisition.
Everybody okay with the wording there then? If so, I'll take a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you, Jana. Thank you, Jason. Any other discussion? Seeing none, Lisa, would you take a vote, please?
Charlotte Nelson.
Yes.
Mark Moore.
Yes.
Jim Asia.
Yes.
Lisa Emerson, yes. Ted Bowman.
Yes.
Janet Emerson.
Yes.
Sandra Hartwell.
Yes.
Mary Jane Van Buskirk. I'm sorry, Greg Walters.
Yes.
Susan Dolan.
Yes.
Steve Gunther.
Yes.
Jason Green.
Yes.
Motion carries 11-0. We'll go to section 11.5, City Council action on budget.
Section 11.5, City Council action on budget. A, notice and hearing. The Board of Aldermen shall publish in 1 or more newspapers of general circulation in the city a general summary of the budget and a notice stating 1, the times and places where copies of the message and budget are available for inspection by the public, and 2, the time and place not less than 2 weeks after such publication for a public hearing on the budget. B, amendment before adoption. After the public hearing, the Board of Aldermen may adopt the budget with or without amendment. In amending the budget, it may add or increase programs or amounts, and may delete or decrease any programs or amounts, except expenditures required by law, or for debt service, or for elimination of a projected cash deficit. C, adoption. The Board of Aldermen by ordinance shall adopt the budget on or before the last day of the month of the fiscal year currently ending. If it fails to adopt the budget by this day, The amounts appropriated for current operation for the current fiscal year shall be deemed adopted for the ensuing fiscal year on a month-to-month basis, with all items prorated accordingly until such time as the Board of Aldermen adopts a budget for the ensuing fiscal year. Adoption of the budget shall consist of the appropriations of the amounts specified therein as expenditures from the funds indicated.
Okay, the only thing that we're trying to do to be consistent in section 11.5A is adding something for electronic media or hard copy. I had at least read it to make it.
This is just what I threw in as a suggestion. On a notice and hearing, the Board of Aldermen shall publish in one or more, how did I put that? In one or more electronic media or hard copy of general circulation in the city, a general summary of the budget and a notice. That way we're covering newspapers and or websites, assuming we don't have newspapers in 5 years or something like that. We won't have to change the charter. I'm just saying, it might all be, might have some other form of communication. So that way, if it's still a public notice thing, but it's not restricting it to the type of media.
Yeah, right.
I was going to suggest, rather than, I agree that it should be done because after all, we are in the 21st century. But you could simply say that the Board of Aldermen shall publish in one or more newspapers of general circulation and post on the city's website a general summary of the budget and notice stating, the point being that anybody then could link to that website in the publication and not have to go through the problem of recreating the wheel and reinventing the wheel. Also, on paragraph 2, you want to insert, I think, did you cover that? Or number 2, it says, not the time and place not less than 2 weeks after such publication and posting for a public hearing on the budget.
And can we change that to fewer?
Or you could change it to electronic posting if you want to.
Here's the issue. You said on the first one newspapers, but again, what if there aren't newspapers in 5 years? And the other issue is what if we don't have a city website necessarily?
I doubt that would be the case.
Okay. I'm just throwing it out there.
But electronic would already be.
Electronic media or hard copy of general circulation, that covers all the things.
I understand, and as long as, I think it's important that it be there from a selfish point of view. I'd rather link to the city's website than have to go in and post it.
Yeah, I didn't disagree, I just,
Yeah.
in case.
But I just can't imagine a city not having a website.
No, I understand that. I think I was thinking at the time was the issue of if the city is controlling the information versus other publications.
That's
That's
my
the second point of view of it.
Yeah, I think I agree with that, but I think it's also important that the posting on the city's website be in line with, and the dissemination, as you suggested, be in line with the timing for the print media, because sometimes it doesn't always work out that way.
So the wording you're suggesting, the Board of Aldermen shall publish in one or more newspapers of general circulation, the city website, and any other electronic or hard copy media, or something like that.
That's reasonable, to cover all bases.
And then on 2, Greg, did you want, can you reread what you put in there? You added some words on 2.
I would say after the time and place, not less than 2 weeks after such publication and electronic posting. And actually, publication is proper too by itself, but I think it's important to put in electronic posting as well. Because you could say that you published it in a print media, even though you didn't do the electronic posting, so this covers all bases.
Any other discussion? Seeing, yeah, Yeah, go ahead, Lisa, reread, A and 2, please.
Okay, how does this sound? A, notice in the hearing. The Board of Aldermen shall have published in one or more newspapers of general circulation in the city, on the city website, and/or in any other electronic or hard copy media, a general summary of the budget and a notice stating: 1. The times and places where the copies of the message and budget are available for inspection by the public, and 2. The time and place not less than 2 weeks after such publication and posting for a public hearing on the budget.
Electronic posting.
I'm sorry, electronic. We're specifying electronic, should I have a newspaper, okay?
Well, it says exactly.
Greg, is that correct, electronic posting?
Yes.
Or specifying, okay.
Any other discussion? Yes, Susan?
Well, it's more of a question. In looking back on personal experience with trying to find this information, I seem to recall it's extremely difficult, or just on an obscure website, maybe it's not obscure to y'all, but it was to me. And I had to, if I recall correctly, I had to pay a dues or a membership to get in there to see it. And I hope I'm wrong about that, but just want to ensure that people can get to it, no charge, easy to find.
I think we did state that earlier in part of the charter, that there was a section where we said there would be no cost for this information.
Was it for everything?
Or was in publication? Yeah, go ahead.
Can I make one quick tweak on A? I said and/or for all the things, but if you want newspapers and on the website, I changed it to newspapers of general circulation in the city and on the city website, comma, and/or in any other electronic or, I don't know, yeah, just to make sure.
That sounds right.
Read just that A again, because the and or is important.
Yeah, and I'm trying to.
Mandating a website is just,
Yeah, I think we should just chop that out. How about we just.
Put it in the regional charter.
Well, I know, but the Board of Aldermen wouldn't have it published there, it would be a third party doing it, so.
Okay, we just chop that out. A, notice of the hearing. The Board of Aldermen shall have published in one or more newspapers of general circulation in the city and on the city website a general summary of the budget and a notice stating. Okay.
No.
Then anybody else can see.
Okay.
no, you just mandated a website.
No, it said the city's website.
Yeah.
And you
That was the
mandated
problem I
that
had.
website.
Yeah.
Well, you know, and the thing is though,
Ted brought this up just a second ago, if you don't mind, I kind of tried to speak to me what you said, because I kind of agree with it. You know, and I understand what we're doing here, but maybe it should be another word for it, just because, you know, in 100 years, you know, the internet may be dead, maybe something else. I mean, we don't know. Well, I know that it says city website, so, I mean, the thing is it needs to be the word
The
maybe
website
different.
is a particular thing, it's just,
This
it's
is-
too much detail.
This was what my argument was, if we put and/or, that could take care of any of the things.
So, I got it.
And or would fix.
Oh, I thought you said just an and.
Well, that's what I was trying to try to frame,
Oh,
I see,
okay.
that was my argument to begin with. is that-
Okay, but, I mean, why don't we just say,
That's what so I did.
the Board of Aldermen shall have published in one or more newspapers and electronic posting of general circulation in the city, or something.
And another form of media or something.
Yeah, and or.
And
Or electronic posting or something. All right.
available to the public, okay, how about that?
One more time. Once more unto the breach. A, notice of the hearing. The Board of Aldermen shall have published in one or more newspapers of general circulation in the city and/or in any other electronic media available to the public a general summary of the budget and a notice stated.
That's
Covers it.
Mr. Chairman,
Squirrel in the second.
Yeah.
Just a question. Is it published or published?
Shall have published,
ED?
because they're not, we're Board of Aldermen isn't.
The Board of Aldermen isn't themselves publishing it, they're having somebody else publish it, so I said, shall have published. Shall have, sorry.
Add the ED on it?
Yeah, it's on there. Shall have published.
What?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
Okay.
I'm just trying to grasp what we're doing here. When we get our budgets, you know, they're pretty lengthy, and they're by department. So, just trying to comprehend how this would work. We're gonna publish exactly what are we gonna publish in the paper by department, and put on our website. And who was gonna do this? Would this be done by department, or would you have the clerk do it? How much are we really talking about here? That's what I'd like to know, because our budgets are by, let's take the police department, for example. How much are they gonna publish on their budget in a newspaper? How much is it gonna cost the city to do that? How lengthy would it be? And I know in newspaper, for example, the number of pages is based upon the amount of advertisement. So, that's what I'd like to know. What is all this
All right,
regarding?
does somebody have a handle on that? I mean, is all the information already generally published?
It says general summary, it doesn't say.
It's the general summary pages, it's not the entire.
They already do it.
I mean, publishing the entire budget in electronic form is not difficult. But that's not what's being said here.
It says a general summary.
And I just want to know what that entails. Is that by department? Is it just, hey, we're having a budget? I mean, I'm not sure what that means.
Well, that's more of the definition of the word general. I mean, we're intending not to publish the entire document in the newspaper. I mean, that would be.
No, we're talking about a summary. It said summary, and I want to know what a general summary, is that by department, or what does that mean? I just think, it's a fair, if we're going to put this in the charter, I think it's a fair question. What is a general summary that we're going to publish? What are we expecting, why? If it's important to do it, what are we doing?
Well, the question is, I agree with Lisa, is there a current standard for what gets put in the general summary?
Try to speak. Do you want to speak?
No, go ahead.
Well, you know, I tell you what, I think that, you know, I've only looked at two of these things, the past couple of years, that you have like line items, you know, per department, if you will, that, you know, kind of like a cheat sheet, if you will. I mean, that's, when I think of a general summary, you know, I get a list of revenue and expenditures for each department, you know, and again, you know, those, we're trying to describe the actual sheet it is. It's a cheat sheet, like the first page on each department, you know, that kind of has some of that stuff kind of broken down. At least that's what I view it, in my opinion, what a summary is. Yeah, it's,
Somewhere. In the paper, and I'm sure somebody will correct me, is just the big numbers of the budget with the publish of the hearing. So there's not like a huge summary of our budget. It's just the encapsulated numbers of the budget, and then it posts the hearing for the budget, the public hearing. So there's not like a huge general summary of each line item with all the different departments and that. I mean, it's just the numbers.
Is there a line item by department? Is there a line item by department that adds up to the total, or?
In my head, that's what I'm seeing in the picture. Yeah.
It hasn't been published in the papers for 5 years, I can tell you that.
What has?
It has not been published in the paper in 5 years.
Okay.
a general summary of the budget.
Nothing.
Not even an announcement.
Well, I mean, now would be the time if we want to add something that describes general summary, or we can put in a list of definitions. That's it.
And I think we should notify the public. I guess my question would be is, what did the general summary mean to the public? Or we should tell them what it is, this is what we're going to give them. and maybe it's the bottom line. It's the general summary of the budget in toto, or by department. At least we should describe what this summary is going to entail, in a few words.
I agree. That's great.
Mr. Chairman, why don't we send this to the finance director and ask what they might suggest as a general summary? And that way, we could get what they will show as being workable, and also give the knowledge that we would want it two formats, one of course for the newspaper, then one for those people who like to get down to the nitty gritty. Each one could go on the website because there's unlimited space there. And it should be easy to convert, so. That way we could find out what's a practical way, and we could look at it and see if it satisfies our curiosity up here. There are 10 people that they make the general.
I would point out that we sound like we're creeping off of the mission here a little bit, because this is about notice and hearing that there is going to be a budget hearing. I mean, you're giving notice that here's the time and place when you can appear and give your opinion about this budget, and the general summary is nothing more than here's how much money we're taking in, here's how much we're spending, and the rest of it is in the document that this notice tells you where to go and look at it. It's not, there's not a lot of detail necessary here to just give notice that here's where the budget is, here's where you can go look at it, here's when you can come tell us what you think. That's the section that we're reading. That's all it's talking about.
Is everybody okay with that?
I agree. Still, I mean, if we're real curious as to what final format should be, go to the one that has the building, is what I'm suggesting.
Well then, if that seems to be the consensus, does somebody want to make a motion?
I make a motion to approve.
Okay, Mark, second. It's a motion as read with the corrections, the final corrections.
The secretary would have one more time, Steve.
11.5, City Council action on budget. A, notice and hearing. The Board of Aldermen shall have published in one or more newspapers of general circulation in the city and/or in any other electronic media available to the public a general summary of the budget and a notice stating, 1, the times and places where copies of the message and budget are available for inspection by the public, and 2, the time and place no less than 2 weeks after such publication and electronic posting for a public hearing on the budget. B, amendment before adoption. After the public hearing, the Board of Aldermen may adopt the budget with or without amendment. In amending the budget, it may add or increase programs or amounts and may delete or decrease any programs or amounts except expenditures required by law or for debt service or for elimination of a projected cash deficit. C, adoption. The Board of Aldermen by ordinance shall adopt the budget on or before the last day of the month of the fiscal year currently ending. If it fails to adopt the budget by this day, the amounts appropriated for current operation for the current fiscal year shall be deemed adopted for the ensuing fiscal year on a month-to-month basis, with all items that are prorated accordingly until such time as the Board of Aldermen adopts a budget for the ensuing fiscal year. Adoption of the budget shall constitute appropriations of the amounts specified therein as expenditures from the funds indicated.
Okay. Is that what everybody else is hearing? If so, if there's no other discussion, we'll take a vote.
Jim Asia.
Yes.
Lisa Emerson, yes. Charlotte Nelson.
Yes.
Steve Gunther.
Yes.
Susan Dolan.
Yes.
Janet Emerson.
Yes.
Ted Bonin.
Yes.
Jason Green.
Yes.
Sandra Hartwell.
Yes.
Greg Walters.
Yes.
Mark Moore.
Okay, motion carries 11-0. It's going on 8 o'clock. Does anybody want to take a break? Because right now, we have just the rest of this section available, I believe. And then all we have are 3 more articles after this, which I need to get to Lisa for getting out to everybody. So, you want to go ahead and take a 5-minute break?
Yeah, sure.
All right, thanks.
Do we have this one section?
Really only have one change, I think I hear somebody coming. There we go. There's one of them.
Sorry.
It's okay. Take your time. We're just glad to see you.
Yes.
Has anybody seen Jim?
I
He's in he's at the head.
All right.
Before we begin, can I make an informal question to the,
Sure.
if this is the people's house, and that's the people's art, how come when they come into the people's house, people can't see the people's art on the wall, as they said?
Have to turn around.
They hire an artist to get it done up here.
That's probably not gonna be.
But you made a good point. All right, we're going to continue with section 11.6, public records. Jason, you got a voice?
What's up here? Coach in day two. Okay. Section 11.6, public records. Copy of the budget in the capital program. Should I say programs?
Program.
Okay, programs. As adopted, shall be public records and shall be made available to the public at suitable places in the city. The Board of Aldermen shall publish annually in one or more newspapers of general circulation in the city a summary and accounting of the receipts and expenditures for the preceding year. Should I continue or run into the same issue we ran into earlier?
Let's get this one because section 11.7 is a little more.
Okay.
And there's a couple questions.
Yeah.
So we're changing capital program to programs, plural,
Yeah.
correct? Okay, and as adopted shall be public record, correct? Not public records, just a public record, it's all there.
No, we just printed it.
So good public record.
And shall be made available to the public at suitable places in the city. The Board of Aldermen shall publish annually in whatever we did before, correct? Or shall have published.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
could we possibly, something to think about, copies available free of the budget in the capital program? I think that some folks have said they've had issues trying to get copies from the city here and, maybe trying to be charged for certain things.
Well, I think we do have that covered someplace, I think the charter was
All documents are free.
All documents, was it that inclusive?
Yes, all documents. Everything that Teresa oversees. And I can go back and look at the exact one.
I just want to make sure that
As I recall, we did two things. One of them was the addition or the requirement of electronic copies, because part of the argument was about paper costs and the amount that they were charging per page. If it's an electronic document, that doesn't. When we had that discussion, we made both of those changes, that it be free and that electronic copies be.
Or in electronic format.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. I'm checking the account.
And I believe it had to do with the section on the city clerk, discussing the city clerk and their responsibilities.
I thought it was all inclusive, but apparently it is not. It's on procedure and 3-point-some, so it's not city clerk there. It said a copy of each proposed ordinance shall be provided for each alderman at the time of its introduction. Copies in electronic and print form shall be provided by the city clerk for inspection by the residents of the city without fee or charge, including a copy in the office of the city clerk until it's finally adopted or fails in adoption. But then if we look down at city clerk, city clerk shall be custodian of and have on file in their office all public city documents, shall ensure these documents are kept promptly updated and are easily available to the public for review at all times in print and electronic format.
does it say that it's?
Does not say free there.
Why don't we just simply say there shall not be any
charge?
any
Okay, well,
charge?
we can go back and motion to insert for free or whatever.
Are you talking about creating a physical paper copy of the budget?
Well, it says, are you
This
specific?
is for Greg.
Oh, for
Are you thinking someone would come up and
Take advantage of it and try just to run up a large copy cost?
I don't know that it would be necessarily taken advantage of it if somebody really wanted to take it home and study, but it is a book.
That's true. My concern, I didn't want to see the city charging people 50 cents for a copy of paper, or a sheet of paper copy.
And I don't have a problem with that, but it seems to me that that's where the requirement of the electronic version would come in. It doesn't cost the city, at best, maybe a disc.
Or they could just simply email it.
Or email it, but they're gonna have an electronic copy in some form or another, and all we're asking them to do is share that.
Okay, then there shall be no remuneration for providing electronic copies to the public in any form for any city business.
I don't have a problem.
That would cover it. It says,
Are you proposed to add that someplace
Well,
or as part of the budget?
well, do you want to add it here?
Well, I mean, if we're gonna do it, we should probably add it where it counts for all city documents.
Then that's where we should do it. Wherever it's all inclusive.
It'd be five.
I don't want to have to put it in there every time the word copy comes up.
It would be 5.3B.
Can we add that as an old business item to the next?
Yeah, we go on to
Or
that.
if you're out there, we're gonna do that
Yeah, the next agenda, that would be fine.
as a housekeeping matter. Yes.
Okay. All right, Lisa's gonna reread 11.6, which has been altered to sound like the last one we just discussed.
11.6 Public Records. Copies of the budget and the capital programs as adopted shall be public record and shall be made available to the public at suitable places in the city. The Board of Aldermen shall have published in one or more newspapers of general circulation in the city and/or in any other electronic media available to the public a summary accounting of the receipts and expenditures for the preceding year.
So I got covered. Take a motion. No.
Motion to approve.
Okay, Jason motions.
Second.
Thank you.
Susan Dolan.
Pass.
Janet Emerson.
Yes.
Greg Walters.
Yes.
Jim Asian.
Yeah.
Ted Bowman.
Yes.
Mark Moore.
Yes.
Charlotte Nelson.
Yes.
Steve Gunther.
Yes.
Lisa Anderson, yes. Jason Green.
Yes.
Sandra Hartwell.
Yes.
Susan Dolan.
I had meant to say yes.
Okay, this motion is adopted. 11-0. All right, section 11.7, amendment after adoption.
Section 11.7, amendment after adoption. A, supplemental appropriations. If during the first fiscal year, the city administrator certifies that there are available for appropriation revenues in excess of those estimated in the budget, the Board of Aldermen, by ordinance, may make supplemental appropriations for the year up to the amount of such excess. B, reduction of appropriations. If at any time during the fiscal year it appears probable to the city administrator that the revenues available will be insufficient to meet the amount appropriated, the city administrator shall report to the Board of Aldermen without delay, indicating the estimated amount of the deficit, any remedial action taken by the city administrator, and recommendations as to any other steps to be taken. The Board of Aldermen then shall take such further action as it deems necessary to prevent or minimize any deficit any deficit, what's wrong with it? Yeah. And any deficit, and for that purpose, it may, by ordinance, reduce one or more. Section C, transfer appropriations. At any time during the fiscal year, the city administrator may transfer part of any of the unencumbered, I'm struggling with that word today, appropriation balance among programs within a department, office, or agency, and upon written request by the city administrator, the city council, I guess it should say the Board of Aldermen, so the Board of Aldermen may by ordinance transfer
part or all of any unencumbered appropriation balance from one department, office, or agency to another. D, emergency appropriations effective date. The supplemental appropriations and reduction or transfer of appropriations authorized by this section may be made effective immediately upon adoption and may be made by emergency ordinance in accordance with the provisions of Article 3, Section 3.13F, emergency ordinances.
Was told myself to say the right way and then I screwed up. It's not part of my vernacular at all. Yeah, I just say vernacular.
All right, Jason, the only thing I got two things. Under supplemental appropriations, I think you said if during the first fiscal year, I don't think it'd be first. I think maybe, yeah, I think either I misheard it or you misread it, but we just don't want to have the word first in there. And then city, or under C, where it says, at the first sentence, at any time during the fiscal year, the city administrator may transfer part. You left out the words of all, of any. Okay, or all, of any, right.
And yeah, just change the word and with any, so.
Yes.
B, excuse me, please, I'll be the last sentence on the page. BOA shall take such further action as it deems necessary to prevent or minimize any deficit.
Yes. Yeah, we changed that. I'm not that good of a typist. And my wife really suffers with me.
I'm doing a good job. On that same sentence, is that sentence finished? Board of Aldermen then shall take such further action as it deems necessary to prevent or minimize any deficit, and for that purpose, it may, by ordinance, reduce one or more.
What?
Nouns.
Yeah.
Insert noun.
And one of them.
That's fine. That's the
Something's
next
now.
one. The any and if.
Now.
Sounds like.
All right.
I assume it's appropriation.
Won't fit.
I'll try to look something up.
Can you check the one there? It's.
Since it is in the title,
I think it's appropriation.
Yes, and that was left off. I'm sorry.
Yep.
That's why this is just a quick draft to go through. Okay, I don't think so. I don't think we need to reread it. Does anybody have any other corrections before we go to motion on this?
I motion.
Thanks. Thank you.
I do have a question.
Yes.
On D, we do have Article 3, section for that emergency ordinance.
Yes.
So it's, the reference is correct.
It's not, I haven't read when you look at it later.
Yeah.
Huh?
We're gonna cross check all
Oh,
those
okay.
behind them.
I wouldn't.
So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and,
11.7, cucumbered appropriations. More.
sorry.
Thanks, Lisa.
We are voting on this, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Charlotte Nelson,
Yes.
Jason Green,
Yes.
Greg Walters,
Yes.
Ted Bowman,
Yes.
Janet Emerson,
Yes.
Susan Dolan.
Yes.
Jim Asia.
Yes.
Grace Emerson, yes. Sandra Arwell.
Yes.
Steve Gunther.
Yes. Motion carries 11-0. All right, we'll do section 11.8, tax rates and tax rolls.
11.8, tax rates and tax rolls. After the budget is finally adopted, the Board of Aldermen shall by ordinance set the tax rates and levy on the various classes of property, and the levy so established shall be certified by the city clerk to the appropriate officials, who shall impute the taxes and extend them upon the tax rolls. Section 11.9, sale of bonds. The city shall be authorized to sell any bonds as may now or hereafter be authorized by law, except as otherwise required by law or this charter. All bonds issued by the city shall be sold as prescribed by ordinance.
Any discussion on those two? Yes. Okay.
Motion to accept.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
By law or by this charter is what we've written and everything
Right.
else, if you just put an extra I in there, just.
Okay, that'd be fine. There's a motion to
I'll second.
Lisa, thank you for seconding. Any other discussion? All right, we'll go ahead and take a roll, please.
Are we voting on 11.8 and 11.9?
Yes, sir. Give her a second to catch up.
Steve Gunther.
Yes.
Sandra Arwell.
Yes.
Lisa Emerson, yes. Greg Walters.
Yes.
Michael McDonough. Not here. Jim Asia.
Yes.
Susan Dolan.
Yes.
Ted Bowman.
Yes.
Charlotte Nelson.
Yes.
Jason Green.
Yes.
Janet Emerson.
Yes.
Mark Dorman.
Yes.
All right, motion carries on those. Both of them. That finishes Article 11. Article 12, franchises, was previously approved. Article 13 was previously approved on licensing taxation. We're now on Article 14, general provisions, which Ted was so gracious to go ahead and make copies for everybody. Excuse me. So I know I'm trying to get her the electronic format. Yeah, I think she's got it. Thank you, Jeanette. And we'll go ahead and start with section 14, general provisions. Do we have a volunteer to read? Anyone? Ted will do it? All right, Greg? Who else? Doesn't matter, you guys just decide.
Article 14, general provisions, section 14.1, personal financial interest. Any elected or appointed officer, employee, or member of any committee, authority, board, or commission of the city who has any direct or indirect substantial financial interest as defined by the Conflict of Interest Statutes of Missouri, A, in any part transacting business with the city, or B, in the subject matter of any city transaction, shall make known that interest and shall refrain from voting upon or otherwise participating in his or her capacity as a city officer, employee, or member in such transaction. Any city officer, employee, or member who willfully conceals such a substantial financial interest or willfully violates the requirements of this section shall be guilty of malfeasance in office or position and shall forfeit the office or position. Violation of this section with the express or implied knowledge of the party transacting business with the city shall render the transaction voidable by the city.
He said, no, let's go ahead and do this. I think Lisa's got a comment or two.
Third line, you read in any part transacting business with the city. Is it supposed to be part or party? I wasn't sure if it made sense.
In any party,
I mean, how do you have financial interest in any
party.
party? Well, I mean, can you have financial interest in a particular person? made sense.
And it does, I misread the word that was there. Well, it is part.
Well, no, I just didn't know if it made sense as having a
Be a
financial
party
interest.
for exactly business.
Okay, if it doesn't.
So,
Motion to adopt.
okay,
Second.
All right, there's a motion to adopt and a second. Mark, motion, Ted, second.
Okay, Jason Green,
Yes.
Mark Moore,
Yes.
Ted Bowman,
Yes.
Greg Walters,
yes.
Lisa Emerson, yes, Janet Emerson.
Yes.
Sandra Hartwell,
Yes.
Charlotte Nelson,
Yes.
Jim Asia,
Yes.
Susan Dolman,
Yes.
Steve Guy.
Yes. Okay, motion carries again, 11-0. All right, 14.2 prohibitions.
Section 14.2 prohibitions. A, activities prohibited. 1, discrimination. No person shall be appointed or removed from, or in any way favored or discriminated against with respect to any city position or appointed city administrative office because of race, sex, age, disability, national origin, political or religious opinions or affiliations. 2, false reports. No person shall willfully make any false statement, certificate, mark, rating, or report in regard to any test, certification, or appointment under the personnel provisions of this charter or the rules and regulations made thereunder, or in any manner commit or attempt to commit any fraud preventing the impartial execution of such provisions, rules, and regulations. Undue influence, or 3, undue influence. No person who seeks appointment or promotion with respect to any city position or appointed city administrative office shall directly or indirectly give, render, or pay any money, service, or other valuable thing to any person for or in connection with his or her test, appointment, proposed appointment, promotion, or proposed promotion. 4, concealed weapons. Penalties. B, penalties. Any person who willfully.
Brent, let me interject there. There was a couple of charters that had the section on concealed weapons. I put that in there only to make comment. Is this a concern here? Okay, if it's not, then we can strike out 4 concealed weapons and go on to B. So we can leave that in the discussion. I just want to make it clear to everyone.
All right, B, penalties. Any person who willfully violates any of the provisions of sections 12.2A, activities prohibited, shall be guilty of a crime and upon conviction thereof shall be punishable as may be provided by ordinance or law. Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I would ask that we strike concealed weapons.
Okay.
Subparagraph 4.
I just wanted to bring it up because it was in some other charters. So that'd be fine. You can always be added.
I don't carry a weapon,
All right, Lisa's got a couple of corrections, I think.
but I want somebody else to.
On B, penalties, any person who willfully violates any of the provisions in the charter shall be guilty of a crime. How does a document convict someone? I'm pretty sure that's a trial issue. I think that might be overstepping its bounds, but maybe someone else can comment. There's a whole judicial procedure for that sort of thing. But an A1, discrimination, as I suggested at the beginning of our document, to take care of every position, much like the city clerk issue of making all documents public and free of charge. We have it in one specific section that covers all documents. I would once again suggest we move discrimination to the beginning of the document and not discriminate against anyone for anything that's mentioned here, which is what I was trying to do originally. So that would be my suggestion, is to make non-discrimination an issue across the board in the charter and not just section it off into one little thing under 14.2, and also to look at 14.2B because of the penalties, making a judicial call there.
And you just said on penalties to change the section, correct? Because it's not 12.2A, it's 14.2.
Oh, I didn't mention that at all. No, I was just concerned that a document is making judicial calls and saying that people are guilty of crimes.
I did see that before conviction.
Yeah, I disagree. Yeah.
Well, it says, shall be guilty of a crime and then upon conviction. So it already judges them to be guilty of a crime by adopting that rationale. But that's, yeah, it's not saying if, it just says shall.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Yeah, what bothers me about shall be guilty of a crime is a little bit indescriptive. I mean, crime, is it a civil crime, a criminal crime? Is it a misdemeanor, is it a felony?
Well,
It doesn't really describe. I think that's a little too, I mean, I don't know, maybe it needs to be general, but
well,
the word crime itself, I mean, most people think of crime as a felony.
I did take this wording directly from the amended lease summary document, this exact wording. I'm not saying it makes it right, I'm just saying that's where I got it from.
But we change the wording to shall, upon conviction, be guilty of the crime.
Well, you strike shall be guilty of a crime upon conviction, just put punishable as may be provided by ordinance or law, that covers everything, activities prohibited. Shall be punishable as may be provided by ordinance or law. Just strike those words out.
Okay.
From shall to.
Shall be guilty of a crime and upon conviction thereof.
Just shall be punishable, okay.
Yeah. No, he picked the truth.
So,
Again,
Okay, go ahead.
I'm still wondering about if it's civil law that we're talking about or criminal law, and if it's punishable by, to me, it's a crime, could be imprisonment. It's just so open-ended that
The state of Missouri defines a crime as being an offense against the criminal code. In order to go to jail, it has to be something greater than an infraction. Well, no, that's not even true. You can't be convicted of a civil offense. Conviction has to be done with a crime. And so I think it excludes civil law altogether. I would point out that at the very end, it says, as may be provided by ordinance of law, or ordinance or law. So if such ordinance or law doesn't exist, then this is just words. Now, those ordinances and laws do exist, but it's referring you back to them in order to get to get this specific punishment. The word willfully is generally used in criminal law to state a mental state. It means there has to be intent. And I think this whole thing is written that way. It's the general description of an intentional offense against the criminal code.
I've looked at a couple other charters just real quickly to check on this, and a couple of the other charters do address this. I'm gonna have Lisa reread the way they have got it on there, because it does make a lot more sense. It's very similar. It just says, any person who willfully violates any of the subsection or provisions of subsection 14.2A, activities prohibited, shall upon conviction be punishable as may be provided by ordinance or law. Makes it real simple. Everybody get that? I'm gonna have Lisa reread it, but
or you could even put should be guilty of violating civil rights. And it'll have to be followed by ordinance anyway. They're going to write an ordinance to cover this thing specifically.
well, yeah, I think so. I mean, some of them could be just state statutes, couldn't they?
Yes.
Well, each of these three, 1, 2, and 3 are, I think, civil rights. Discrimination, false reports, and due influence.
I think it's still within the city's ability to make those attacks criminal. And in fact, what it's saying is if you do any of the things that we specifically prohibit here, then you could be prosecuted. It's not saying that it can prosecute you. It's not saying who prosecutes you or that it has to be city or state. It's just making it unlawful to do those things.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Lisa, you want to reread the list?
14.2B, penalties. Any person who willfully violates any of the provisions of section 14.2A, 14.2?
14.2, yeah.
Okay. 14.2 shall.
It is 14.2, sorry.
14.2A shall upon conviction be punishable as may be provided by ordinance or law. And I would still recommend to move 1 to begin with the document.
That's guilty of crime.
Yeah, that makes sense.
They took out
Okay. All right, so I think that clears that up. Is everybody happy with that? Yes, Susan?
I'd like to add for consideration, an activity prohibited being engaging the city in any foreign treaty.
Any what? I'm sorry?
Engaging the city in any foreign treaty.
All right, that's a new one on me. I haven't seen that in the charter, but I mean,
For which number? Sorry?
it would be
Amendment 14.2, a subsection
4.
4.
Oh, you mean a whole new subsection?
How would the city enter into, or even begin to consider entering into a treaty?
I'd have to expand upon that later. It's going to take some time to explain.
Okay,
Do you have wording?
so we can at least approve it as it is, and if you want to bring a point 4 in to our next meeting, we can do that.
Pending a greater understanding, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Susan's wanted to add something in the,
Instead of concealed weapons, there would be another possible item number 4, but she doesn't have words for it right now, so it could also always be something that we can add. It shouldn't hold us up from approving 14.2 prohibitions.
So we're not adding it in at this time?
No.
We would just be voting on what is presented here before us?
Correct.
Okay, gotcha.
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
and this will be 14.2A and B.
Yes. Any other considerations before we vote?
Would Lisa mind reading the penalties one more time? The final.
B, penalties. Any person who willfully violates any of the provisions of section 14.2, activities prohibited, 14.2A, I'm sorry, activities prohibited shall, upon conviction, be punishable as may be provided by ordinance or law. Sorry, I'm reading out of 2 copies.
All right, any other discussion? We'll take a vote.
Ted Bowman.
Yes.
Jen Emerson.
Yes.
Lisa Emerson. Yes. Charlotte Nelson.
Yes.
Steve Gunther.
Yes.
Susan Dolan.
Yes.
Greg Walters.
Yes.
Jason Green.
Yes.
Jim Asher.
Yes.
Sandra Hartwell.
Yes.
Mark Moore.
Yes.
All right, section, what's that?
Everybody's suddenly comfortable with
Yeah.
section disability.
Section 14.3, political activity, and 14.4. You want to go ahead and read both those, Greg?
14. Yes, 14, section 14.3, political activity. All employees may exercise their rights as private citizens to express opinions
and if a qualified voter of the city to vote in any municipal election. Political affiliation, participation, or contribution shall not be considered in making any city employment decision. No city officer, committee, authority, board, or commission member or employee shall use official authority or official influence for the purpose of interfering with or affecting the result of an election to a Raytown city office or any ballot proposition. No city officer, committee, authority, board, or commission member or employee shall directly or indirectly coerce or command a city employee to pay, lend, or contribute anything of value to a committee, organization, agency, or person for the political or electoral purposes of any candidate for Raytown city office or any ballot proposition. Section 14.4, all
Can I
ordinances.
stop you there for 1 second?
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, can I just stop you 1 second? I have 2 questions.
Oh. Go ahead.
Alright, can we chop out Raytown since we've not been doing that anywhere else and just put city and capital like we've been doing? Okay, thanks, sorry.
That was too small.
That's one.
Okay.
So you strike the Raytowns?
Yeah, there was
Capital
two
City,
places.
C and city.
And capitalizing city. Okay.
The next one, you want to take out the city of West Plain.
Okay, yeah. Yeah.
Unless we're changing the name of the city.
Okay, go ahead and read 14.4, thanks.
Section 14.4, all ordinances effective on municipal land. In addition to all other powers herein granted, the city shall have the right and authority to administer and enforce all its municipal ordinances within all areas owned or occupied by the city, which are outside of the corporate city limits. Sherry,
No, let's go ahead and get those two.
14.5, notice of suits. No action shall be maintained against the city for or on account of any injury growing out of alleged negligence of the city unless notice shall first have been given in writing to the mayor within 90 days of the occurrence for which said damage is claimed, stating the place, time, character, and circumstances of the injury, and that the person so injured shall claim damages therefore from the city.
All right, go ahead and make that.
Chair.
Okay, just 1 second. Go ahead.
14.4, privilege, to keep it consistent with the rest of the document.
What?
In addition to all other powers herein granted, the city shall have the privilege and authority to administer and enforce all its municipal ordinances, so forth, because that's what we changed it to in the rest of the document.
Okay. Yes, Susan?
Therefore, should end with an E.
Okay.
Yep. That's not wrong.
Okay. Where was that at? I'm sorry.
Third, fourth word from the end of the sentence.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. On 5, 14.5.
Yes.
Thank you. We try. The more we catch now, the less we have to worry about. So. Okay.
So, since when we changed was 14.4, Lisa, can you read that again so I can make sure I got the words right?
14.4, all ordinances effective on municipal land, in addition to all other powers herein granted, the city shall have the privilege and authority to administer and enforce all its municipal ordinances within all areas owned or occupied by the city which are outside the corporate city limits.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Any other? We'll take a motion.
Well, I have,
Okay, great. Go.
actually, you may want the motion first, but it's 14.5, notice of suits. I do have some questions on that.
Well, let's go ahead and try to answer your questions before we do the motion.
Okay. It says that no action shall be maintained against the city or on or account of any injury growing out of alleged negligence of the city unless notice shall first have been given in writing to the mayor.
Oh,
Within 90 days of the mayor, or should it be the city? Rather than one individual,
sorry.
That's I also wonder if you can really, it's kind of like saying it shall not rain after 9 o'clock in the evening. Because somebody wants to bring suit against the city, they can anyway. Now, maybe this is for just internal purposes, to avoid suit or damage claims. But I don't know, within 90 days of the occurrence for which said damage is claimed, stating the time, character, and circumstance of injury, and that the person so injured will claim damages therefore from the city. So it would sound to me like it's more like a negotiation with the city rather than a lawsuit. Because it sounds like it's something with the city maybe trying to solve the problems. I don't know if the 90 days is appropriate. I don't know.
Wouldn't that be those who hit a year later, come back and say?
I'm sure that's probably the reason. Correct.
So it gives guidelines that you have 90 days from the account of the injury or the negligence.
Should we make it a part of the section that says that the city, that it's incumbent upon the city to give an agreed party knowledge of this, because the normal person is not going to know this exists. I mean, because
Well, I mean, 99% of people aren't gonna know much of what's in.
I understand that, but in this case, let's say for instance, they're plowing the snow on my street, and they gouge my yard 3 feet deep with the snow plow, and it just tears up the sod and all this stuff. So somebody says that they don't know that they can go to the, well, I would think an average person would probably go to the city and say, hey, you damaged my property. But some may not know the way that you're supposed to do it. And I don't know what the proper way to handle that is.
Do they mean personal injury against a person like bodily as opposed to someone's yard? I mean, I
Yeah,
think
because
that.
it says injury growing out of alleged negligence.
My question
I mean, with Greg's thing, now that they make a gouge in the yard and they go out there and they trip in it without knowing it's there and they're injured, it's, you know.
is this an appropriate question here? For instance, it says notice of suits. So an individual must notify the city, is what it's saying, correct? Within 90 days. Well, what if it were, first of all, how is that, I mean, there's a statute of limitations on any sort of grievance if you bring it before a court. I mean, that's already determined by your state and
It's
so
not
forth.
only 90 days.
Right, and it's not really, we can't, I don't think, determine that for this state. And otherwise, if you took it backwards, what if an individual came up to City Hall at Village at City Hall and then somebody fell into a hole or something? Would the individual have to, would the city have to therefore have 90 days to notify the individual they did that? I mean, I'm just saying that it doesn't wash in either respect with me. I would just recommend just to cut it out entirely because it seems a bit daft.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes. Ted.
I think that some of the words in that whole section are being oversimplified. I think this is another example of something that attorney needs to. I don't think injury has anything to do with personal human damage. I think it's injury in general, injury at law. And whether or not this is even needed is probably something to ask that attorney rather than hold us up here.
Well, and then, in my own ignorance, I've known a couple of cities where, and I'm the mayors of the city, where the mayors are actually the ones that are held liable for the community. So we cross out the word mayor with city, but in the end, who's it really go to? I mean, I'm just saying that is the case in some cities. So, I kind of agree. We can definitely have the attorney review this notice of suits, and we can take it out. We can postpone it till that time, or so we can vote on 14.3 and 14.4. I'm sorry. Okay, Susan, did you have something else?
Yeah, just more of the same. You got the city writing the ordinances, you got the state writing the statutes. Where did they come off writing law within the charter? Yes,
To
sir.
cover the other 90%, I guess. Yeah, you have something?
Yeah, I'd make a motion to accept 14.3 because I think it can easily, the same argument can be made about 14.4. I don't know how much authority we have to say that we can enforce our city ordinances outside our city limits. We may be able to, but I don't know that anybody here can answer that.
But it's our land outside our city.
We've had parkland outside our city and it was handled by outside the city ordinances, not ours. We made park rules, but they didn't call this city or this city's enforcement arm to go down there and deal with it. They called that city.
But even the land that we own off of Melvin back there,
I don't know that we ever had a law out there.
or
I was speaking specifically about the park. But
I second.
Hold on a second. Let me see if I can find something in the MML just to.
So we're setting aside 14.4 and 14.5, is that the motion?
yeah, I just moved to accept 14.3 because it's fairly simple. I just think 14.4 is worth asking before we just put it in.
It wouldn't hurt for them.
Well, okay. Further discussion then, if we have a motion in a second to do that, I'm just gonna go ahead and read what the MML suggests, puts in for notice of suits. It says, no action shall be maintained against the city for or on account of any injury growing out of alleged negligence of the city unless notice shall first have been given within writing to the city manager, mayor, who's ever in charge, city, within 90 days of the occurrence for which said damage is claimed, stating place, time, character, and circumstances of injury, and that the person so injured will claim damages therefore from the city. And that's what the MML says.
That's the MML.
That's the suggested wording for that, which is pretty much what was in there.
My question on the notice of suits is where's the city attorney at in all this? This is a suit. Why go to the mayor?
Well, you can go to the city has to go over it with their attorney, obviously. But I'm just letting you know what's written in the MML. So we can leave these two sections in there and let the attorney still review it, and then they can make comment to it. So.
Okay, so 14.3. To approve just 14.3, Janet Anderson.
Yes.
Steve Gunther.
Yes.
Mark Moore.
Yes.
Lisa Emerson, yes. Charlotte Dawson.
yes,
Tim Bowman.
Yes.
Jim Major.
Yes.
Susan Dolan.
Yes.
Jason Green.
Yes.
Greg Walters.
Yes.
Sandra Hartwell.
yes.
Okay, section 14.2 carries 11-0. We need a motion to carry 14.45. Are we just passing on, or,
Put them on the list, ask for it.
Just move on.
okay? Excuse me, sir. Yes, sir.
I'm going to read it. Section 14.6, official bonds. All officers and employees of the city who receive, disperse, or are responsible for city funds and such other officers and employees as the Board of Aldermen by ordinance may designate shall, within such time after election or appointment as may be fixed by ordinance, and before entering upon discharge of their duties, give bond to the city in such sums and with such sureties as shall be prescribed by ordinance or law, and subject to approval by the Board of Aldermen, conditioned upon the faithful and proper performance of their duties and for the prompt accounting for and paying over to the city of all monies belonging to the city that may come into their hands. The city shall pay their premiums on all such bonds. That is the longest sentence in the world.
It's a very long sentence.
I'm sorry, I'm just copying, but one second.
We should have gone and sent it back to them.
Well, I mean, again, in my effort just put something out. I reviewed all the charters, put down what was consistent in all the charters for us to review, and that's why we're having a review now. So, put your periods where you want to put your
It's
periods.
basically saying they have to be bonded.
Bond the employee.
Yeah.
I think it's a long sentence, but I think the meaning's accurate. And I'll move to accept it.
Second.
Any other discussion? We'll take a vote.
Ted Bowman,
Yes.
Jason Green,
Yes.
Mark Moore,
Yes.
Sandra Harpo,
Yes.
Jim Asia,
Yes.
Charlotte Nelson,
Yes.
Greg Walters,
Yes.
Janet Emerson,
Yes.
Lisa Emerson, yes, Susan Dolan,
Yes.
Steve Gunther.
Yes.
Motion to adjourn.
9:00?
Yep.
I said.
All right. All in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
We'll take up 14.7 by Monday. No, fire department.
Do you have the dates of the next meetings?
Yeah.